good morning and good evening. Just taking a few moments of stillness, of mindfulness with this chant, with our breath. We are exploring stillness today. And what is stillness? And why is it so hard for me to be still? When I see all this activity, this noise, this chaos, this planning around me, why do I not give myself an option to choose stillness? Thank you. So before we begin, I mean, let's begin and let's maybe before we get into the, I don't know what I'm trying to say, let's just, if possible, unmute right now and just share what stillness means to me. Am I able to practice it? And if not, why do I feel I have come so far away from stillness? Not talking about society, not talking about the world, talking about myself. Am I able to spend some moment with stillness, in stillness, throughout the day or once a day? And if not, why is that? And we'll explore how to change that. So if anybody is willing,
Yataru.
yes, Aditi.
See, I'm trying to practice the stillness every day, at least morning sometime, afternoon for some time, and evening for some time. But it is not happening every day. Some days I'll be more calm, I'll be very still, I'll be able to connect with the silence. But sometimes I'm not able to do that. My mind is just wavering. You know, it wants to go somewhere. I used to ask, where do you want to go now? What do you want now? See, we are sitting, but you know, physically sitting, mentally going out everywhere. So, still trying to, you know, talk to my mind, but my mind is not able to answer anything. Even today morning, I tried sitting for, you know, I was telling my mind, you just sit for 5 minutes. I'm not asking you for more than that. But still, I could not sit. My mind was not stopping. My mind started, you know, thinking of so many things. Oh, now my maid will come. I what will I cook? Whether milk has come, every possible, you know, distraction I was having. Then I thought, it's okay, today I will leave you, but tomorrow I will try to you know, like a small child, I was just talking. But some days it is so calm. As soon as I get up, I can sit for more than half an hour, but sometimes it is not happening. So I just want to, you know, understand how to catch hold of that. The more I talk to that, the more it is not, you know, I'm not able to control my mind. So lot of things. These are all, you know, the small things, you know, seeing. But you know, something very seriously is not under able. I'm not able to do control me. So I am finding it difficult. Yeah. But beautiful topic. Thank you for choosing it. Need of the hour. Thank you so much. So let us understand, you know, how to.
Yes. Thank you, Saraswati. Yes.
Yeah.
Because her,
Nandini, if you're saying something, you're muted.
no, I was not sure if you were going to respond to what Sharada said or if.
No, we see this is like a sharing circle. Anybody is responding or,
Okay.
you know, just sharing reflections from our life. So please feel free to go ahead if you have anything.
Yeah, I think I was going to answer the question that you asked, right? About what is stillness and what kind of gets in the way for me specifically. So for me, when I think about stillness, right, I think it's less about not doing or keeping my mind uncluttered and not having the thoughts, right? Because that's just going to happen. That's the habit nature of, you know, whatever comes up, right, in living life. I think for me, it's more about being able to slow down and recognize that it's happening and not get caught up with it or get carried away, right? So kind of like that river, not getting carried away with the stream of activity or the stream of doing, but kind of creating that space where I can observe it and I can notice that it's happening without getting caught up in it, right? So that I think for me is what resonates when I think about stillness. And what gets in the way is very similar to what Sharda was sharing, right? So some days I definitely feel like I have more of that space where there's a lot of doing, right, that happens in daily life, but I have that space to do and then slow down and do, or even in the doing, slow down how I'm doing. Um, and then some days you're just completely caught up and the day ends and I'm just like, oh, it's very, very that frantic phase, right? And you just completely get caught up in all of that. So it comes and goes. Um, yeah, so that's basically my main observation as far as this goes. I think meditation and all of these practices really help set the stage for how the day needs to go, but not always like effective.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yes, Ritu. Yeah, Ritu, are you saying anything? Or
Yeah, yeah, with me. Can I say?
Yeah.
Hello. For me, I'm not able to ever empty my mind. It doesn't happen with me that even if I try to sit for meditation and I'm trying not to think anything, I'm still thinking that I'm not thinking. I'm trying not to think. So the thoughts keep coming then also. So the moments where my mind is completely still might be very, very few. But what I prefer doing is what I would call I feel still in is maybe concentrating on one thing. Maybe it's like reading, and I'm 100% concentrating on it so that I would feel a little still. Or in chanting, if I'm actually concentrating on the chant, then I feel still. Or if it is music, if I'm concentrating on that music, so I feel still. So it never happens with me that I'm completely without any thoughts. I mean, if for me, stillness would be not having 100 thoughts, but maybe having 2 or 3 thoughts.
Yeah. Thank you for that honesty. Yes. Yes, Vasu.
So, at the best or the worst, I'll describe my mind as a monkey mind. So, I imagine my thoughts to be like fruits on the tree, and it's like literally going down with the weight with the fruits. So, the fruits are like my thoughts, like a gazillion thoughts that are like streaming across in my mind the entire day. So, it's never still that way mentally. Physically, I can't keep myself still as well. I think I'm a bit too hyperactive at times. So I'm just trying to tame, and it's a very challenging. I'm trying to tame my monkey mind. And if those few times that I try to be still, I just feel guilty, as in, what are you doing? You're just sitting. Like, you've got to do something. You just cannot sit. Just sitting still for me sometimes hinges on being unproductive. Like, are you just supposed to be sitting now? Don't you think you have something to do? So there's that kind of a guilt that you've just got to go. So that, to me, like, I'm practicing the stillness. I think when the times I do practice it, it's really nice. It's almost like, how you sort of rejuvenate with that rest. You need some downtime just to be still, not, and I can't say not thinking. I think that is very challenging. I can't think of a single time that I'm not thinking. So, but yes, beautiful topic. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Yes, so Sardaji spoke about distraction. Now, the whole life, if we look back, my whole day, my 24 hours, it's about means to an end. And I'm so intricately just involved in so many things. And there is this false belief that if I don't do it, nobody would. And yet, we have seen time and again that we are all replaceable, right? This is just my illusion that I am making the world go round. I remember listening to a mystic who was told that, he would die before he turns 18. And so his parents got him married so that, he can live life and stuff. But he just could not get over the fact or the fear that I will die before I turn 18. So he kept asking any sadhu, any saint who would cross, in front of their house or in their town, that can you can you help me not die? Can you help me live longer? So one of them said, I cannot help you, live longer, but I can help you remove the fear of death. And so he accompanied him. And before he turned 18, he left his family and he went back with him. He studied with him for a year and so. But he kept having this feeling, okay, what would my family be doing without me? What, how miserable they would have been without me. And the sadhu said, okay, just, this in a disguise, go to your home, around your home, see how everybody is doing. And when he went, he saw that everything is fine. The world is running as if he didn't exist ever. And that helped him to just, he just turned back and he went and he lived, I don't know, more than 80 years. His name is Akhand Anand. So he had an ashram in Vrindavan. Beautiful life story, but again and again we do know. And yet, even if I'm sitting for 5 minutes, and everybody's story, right? Even if I'm sitting for 5 minutes, the world, my world that I have created around myself, it doesn't let me be. And that doesn't disgusts me. I am not the body, I have a body. I'm not the mind, I have a mind. I'm not my emotions, I have emotions. And yet they rule me. I can, if a thought is coming, I can't just say, keep quiet, not right now. It's right now my time for, just focusing. I don't have that control. If an emotion is coming, if a memory is torturing me, memory is but a thought, right? And yet I say I am so powerful, I'm so intelligent, I am the top of the food chain, I am making the world go round. And not on one thought, one emotion, anger comes, it disrupts me. So, we have come so far, like where Nandini was sharing, and again, it's story of her life, that having peace or being quiet or being effortless seems to require so much effort, right? And that doesn't sound very natural. Like it feels like, at least if I am thinking right now, it feels very logical that if I want to be quiet, I should be able to internally, not just talking about, not talking to people. And yet I have come too far from that. Mindfulness, meditation, these are practices that I say, okay, do 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 2 hours a day, sometimes maybe. And yet it feels from inside that is me. And yet here I am today that I have to make so much effort to be what I am. So just the contradictions or the ironies of our life are very hard hitting. And this, especially in our culture, in this society these days, this stress on doing, multitasking. No wonder the cases of, ADHD, ADD, attention deficit disorders, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorders are rising so much in our kids. Mental diseases, being so many places at once and totally getting screwed up. We keep looking for band-aids, right? What therapy, how to cure. But we don't pause and see that why is it happening? So if I as an adult feel useless if I'm sitting still because I am so used to moving all the time, no wonder my children are not willing to sit still also. And I make the society, right? I make the world. It changes with me. So it's very reflective, and this monkey mind. In the Upanishads, there was this thing that somebody had shared with me. Had told me, he just recently passed on, a very amazing gentleman. He said it's written that if there was a monkey and you basically cut his chest, you put salt in it, you do three, four more things to it, and how he would jump and scream and be agitated and restless. This is how my mind is, not just a regular monkey. It can be funny or it can be sad, but that's how much movement there is inside of me. If I don't have the strength and the practice, as we do see now that being effortless requires effort, is how much I will be made to jump. And when Vasu was sharing, I actually remembered a beautiful passage from a book called Sunlit Path that we are taking up on Friday. I just try to pull it. I think I wasn't planning to take it, but I think it would be a very good beginning if we are all. Give me one. Found it. Yeah, I hope you can see my screen. So the section is peace and quiet, and the topic is the illusion of action. So I think it would be very nice if we could just go through it together, and if there's any reflections, we can take it up. We don't have to put too much time in it, but if something brings us life. So if anybody has the capacity, they can read it. Otherwise, I'll do it.
I'll read it now.
Thank you.
Topic the illusion of action. Agitation, haste, restlessness lead nowhere. It is foam on the sea. It is a great fuss that stops with itself. Men have a feeling that if they are not all the time running about and bursting into fits of feverish activity, they are doing nothing. It is an illusion to think that all these so-called movements change things. It is merely taking a cup and beating the water in it. The water is moved about, but it is not changed for all your beating. I'll read that one more time. It is merely taking a cup and beating the water in it. The water is moved about, but it is not changed for all your beating. This illusion of action is one of the greatest illusions of human nature. It hurts progress because it brings on you the necessity of rushing always into some excited movement. It hurts progress because it brings on you the necessity of rushing always into some excited movement. If you could only perceive the illusion and see how useless it all is, how it changes nothing, nowhere can you achieve anything by it. If you could only perceive the illusion and see how useless it all is, how it changes nothing, nowhere can you achieve anything by it. Those who are thus rushing about are the tools of forces that make them dance for their own amusement, and they are not forces of the best quality either. Should I continue?
Yeah, let's just read it fully. Yeah. Yeah, Jagan,
Yeah, can I share something?
yes, please, absolutely.
When I'm reading through this, it says that this illusion of action is one of the greatest illusions of human nature. And to an extent, the reason for being afraid of transformation for me is somehow linked to how much I'm attached to this illusion. The excitement that comes with it. I think to myself that if I were to transform, then I may lose this illusion and maybe I will miss it. And that's why I don't want to transform. But then am I enjoying in this illusion? I am absolutely not. So, yes.
We are enjoying this illusion, otherwise we would not be here. And there's, a thing called, and I'm not saying we are all there, but there's a thing called dukh ras. That my pains, my challenges, my struggles, they also give me a thrill, just like excitement gives me a thrill. The identification with my story, so how hard I'm working, how hard is my life, for example, that gives me some weird, convoluted sense of achievement and being. मेरे साथ ये हुआ, मैं हूं जो ये कर रहा है. So we are definitely enjoying, because if we were not, we would not be here for sure. Yeah, but yeah, that was very good. Thank you for sharing. I mean, this honesty really helps in could help us in stilling certain things. Yeah.
तरु
Yes, Shah.
वो दुख रस का एक एनोनिम भी है, सुख रोग होना. ओके.
Dukh rog.
हाँ.
Okay,
Means
tell
if
me.
you have all the comforts and everything, but yet you are not happy and yet you are cribbing that ये नहीं है, वो नहीं है and all that.
Okay.
It's like we have all the material comforts and everything at our disposal, but yet we crib and we say that ये नहीं है, वो नहीं है, ये होना चाहिए.
Like affinity towards going towards the lack, right? Basically.
Yeah. And many a times it actually robs us of our appetite. Okay. When we crave a bit far too much, then we can't hear the chirping and chuckling of birds and all that. And we can't enjoy nature and we can't enjoy things as it is. Like Sulakshana ma'am had made a video of that, no?
Yeah.
And shared in the group.
Yeah, that's true.
तो कई बारी हम वहां पे भी falter करते हैं. And then
कई बारी नहीं, I would say mostly that's where we are, right? We identify more with lack and complaining than expressing and feeling the gratefulness, right? In our everyday.
Yeah, we are happy cribbing. Something in us is enjoying that. Yeah.
And then I read a book called Sufism by Sadia Dehlavi. So here she says that you breathe in shukr and you breathe in sabr and breathe out shukr. Okay. So that also helps a lot to be with oneself, if actually one is able to practice.
Yeah.
But many a times we don't practice because that set pattern had been going on for decades or years.
Taruna, you just mentioned something. I just struck a chord. I think a couple of days back, my older one was telling me, she says, Mom, I think you just like sometimes just being miserable, I wasn't sure whether she was trying to tell me that I think sometimes you just like the drama or just being in pain. So it was pretty profound what she said, and I just had to stop and reflect on what she was saying. I said, is that so? Does it appear so? She says, yeah, sometimes to me it just looks like as if you just like being miserable.
And so hard it is to hear such a thing, right? Like how it feels like a slap on the face, and yet it is the truth, and we need to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. I think she's my biggest cheerleader, and she's my biggest critic as well. So she pretty much keeps me on track if I'm like, she'll say it as is. So I really appreciate that. Like I think I can just take it pretty much as very constructive feedback from her and something that I can improvise on. And you don't realize it, right? It seems that it just almost seems as if you're not conscious about the things that you do during the day and how it comes across until the person in front of you, how they're looking at it, and you don't realize because you're in it. So like you just mentioned about, I'm not sure whether, that is also, all that kind of activity is also thrilling us to some extent. Like we just love to also be embroiled in those kind of illusions. Yes, I just want to share that.
Thank you.
So when the passage was being read, right, I think one of the things with doing and restlessness and constantly going after like all of these external achievements, right, is there's a lot of fear on, okay, what is the alternate, right? So even whether you're enjoying it or miserable or complaining about it, right, there's a lot of fear with, okay, if you stop doing or if you stop that, what happens then, right? um and I think inside, like, we all know that we feel it, right? I think even in this conversation that there is something, there's a better way of being, there's a better way of not doing and not being restless. Yeah, but there's a lot of like fear, right, of what happens if you stop, right? No, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. So the reason why we are not able to practice stillness is because we are scared that what will I see? What will happen if the world is not moving, if I'm not moving? And I think that is what we kind of faced when the lockdowns happened, when we were told we can't go out. Suddenly, the 500 things that we were doing outside had to stop. And we see there was some shift in consciousness, in dimensions, had, more kind of movement towards stillness. We did feel it then because we were forced. And the only way to get over the fear is to see and, to do it and see what happens. I remember there's a beautiful book of Sri Aurobindo. He was sent to prison for no reason. Prison Life, it's called. And in that, when he was sent to the prison, he was very surprised. He was, a freedom fighter, and he was very actively involved in writing news articles, and he had his magazine. And but when he came to the prison and he was just fighting and struggling kind of, internally, that what is happening, he was put in a secluded cell. And once he was able to be still, a voice told him that I told you to be still. I've been telling you to be still, but you are moving so much. And I had no other option but to bring you here so that you could be still. Only if you would have listened outside. So this is our story too. The universe, it loves us so much that it's doing everything to help us evolve, to be more than what we are. But if we refuse to listen, then it is that we get tight slaps, we get tragedy, we get wake up calls, and then we cry out that why is this happening to me? So it's happening because I don't listen when somebody is telling me something that, and if you think about it, right, forget that this is my life. And if you think about it, stillness seems so much a nature's thing, right? Like it seems so much a part of me. Like it, and that is why we feel so calm and composed when we go for nature walks, when we say sit for 5 minutes in meditation, for example. And yet, this is not my reality. And it's a wonder why. But it is what it is. So we cannot just keep sitting. Like, I'm sorry if I'm sounding kind of going down, but it it's good to take account of where I am so that I can be where I want to be. And Nandini, when you were sharing, actually I read something the other day. It was really interesting. I'll just shift gears. I'll share that. That was really good. I don't know who this is from. Some Sergey esoteric teaching. So here it says that once you know yourself in your living stillness, there is nothing in this world that is greater than you. And here, I think this was very revelatory that when we hear the word stillness, we immediately think of it as the opposite of movement, right? That's what you were saying. That's what we believe, right? That if there's no movement, there is stillness. We perceive it's about passivity, it's about inertia, it's about not doing anything. But it says that, but stillness is something quite different altogether. Stillness is an energetic quality of being. It is naturally present in the heart of every human being, equally so. Sometimes after a few cups of coffees or a fight, we might not feel it, but it is still, pun intended, always there. It is only us who have chosen to disconnect from it. So I think this line, stillness is an energetic quality of being. Say something is happening, right? Like maybe people are fighting, or you've been accused of something, for example, small, petty family affairs. Who would we say has more power, more strength? The one who just lashes out and says, कि मुझे कैसे बोल दिया and stuff, or the one who stands and is listening, who doesn't react but is able to respond. We know the answers, and yet we do nothing to be more grounded, to be more strong, more heavy, more where we are, so that we don't get moved by every wind that blows around us. So being still is not passivity that we need to be scared of, but being still is actually the biggest way we can show that we have the strength. That the words, the accusations, the lies, we don't, it just doesn't move it. I move it when I want to. So in the passage we were reading, it said that action is like we take a glass of water and we are just putting, we are just moving a spoon in it. So it feels something is happening. See, water is moving, water is moving, water is moving. After 1 hour, when we stop, it's exactly the same. Nothing changes. Except maybe our arm could be paining. So that is there, and that's what happens, right? We get exhausted in doing so much, running. But are we happy where we are? Are we happy where we have reached? Or it's always like, okay, yahan to pahunch gaya hu, now where next? Where to? Somebody spoke about patterns. I don't remember who. Pattern is something that I have been doing, and now it is a habitual pattern. Maybe it was Sham. So how do we change a pattern when we know it's not working for us? We start making a new pattern, right? We start changing the habit. Yes, Sham, please.
Yeah, Taru, like Paramahansa Yoganand ji says that we can always induce a new pattern at will, but that will should be strong.
Mm. So we call ourselves intelligent, right? Well educated, well versed, courageous, well placed individuals. And yet we keep saying कि अरे ये तो मेरी आदत है, अरे अब मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ, अरे ये तो natural है गुस्सा होना. Seeing time and again that it's not natural. I mean, it might be natural, but I am more than nature. If I see something is not working for me, something comes and totally moves me and I lash out and I've lost it and I keep losing it for each and everything. This is my strength. This is what I say I am accomplished. This is what makes me a good human being or a strong person in general. I think these are the questions that we must ask so that we can open the doors for something else to come or practice differently so that I can move. If I've spent too much time here already.
Yeah, Taru, again here that question of self-love comes into play. Okay. That why am I emptying my cup? I'm emptying my cup because it's not full of self-love. And it's full of all that filthy and useless things.
Yeah, but the unfortunate thing is I feel that I don't see that it's filthy, right? I don't see that it's useless.
And what I connect to one video of AP in which he says that आप हर एक बार ये सोचे कि आपकी जो thoughts है वो पुराने वाले thoughts से अच्छे thoughts है कि नहीं. If you do every time what is relatively best and the absolutely best would happen by itself.
Yeah.
Just to backtrack a bit, Taruna, what you were mentioning earlier, would it be a fair comparison to say that stillness is almost like when you said about like two people, let's say if they are having a discussion or argument, the person who's silent, it might seem that being silent is no activity or being passive, but then that's also the same as being stillness we talked about is the energy of being, right? Would that be a fair comparison?
See, I don't know, when you were talking, I got a little bit distracted. This visual of, again, I don't know, since yesterday I'm thinking of Ramayana too much. You know how it was like that when we were in this thing that whenever the Asuric forces, say Ravan or what was this, Indrajit, when they would be sending the blows or the arrows, they would be laughing and they would kind of be practicing illusions कि कभी यहाँ खड़े हैं कभी वहां खड़े हैं कभी अजीब सी चीजें निकाल रहे हैं मतलब a lot of drama, shouting, screaming, hue and cry, kind of trying to intimidate. And then there is the Ram who's just standing and waiting कि हाँ भैया कर ले जब आएगा तो देखूंगा, right? So all this that we see, we have a choice whether we want to be intimidated or I'm sure in myself. I remember reading and I'll find it was beautiful. Once, I think it was, I don't know, Sri Aurobindo or the mother, they said there were two types of stillness. One is the stillness of inertia, that because I'm lazy maybe, or because, there's so much tamas in me that I don't want to do anything about it. And I call that stillness. So that stillness really is not good for anything. And then there is the stillness, that certitude that the good will happen, truth will win. And that is the stillness which has the potential for transformation. Like, say, imagine right now Ram looking at the Ravan and just seeing all the things he's doing. I mean, it's just silly, right? It's so immature. So it knows, okay, he just wants to have all this hoo and halla, and I don't have to respond to it. But my ego doesn't let me be still. It wants to respond. It wants to say, "Ki, Acha, you can shout this loudly, I'll shout louder. You can jump 10 times in the air, I'll jump 20 times." This is where I feel what I feel stillness is. And again, just sharing something from my own experience. I know I was just, I was having this argument again and again and again with somebody, and I was discussing with one of my friends that, every time he says something, it's like I pull out my Jhansi ki Rani ki sword and I'm like, bol ke dikha, accuse karke dikha, something like this. And my friend said that, every time maybe a sword is not needed. A Jhansi ki Rani fought with a sword, and a Buddha, he fought with silence. So maybe you need to explore other ways too for your own peace and everybody else's sanctity. So it didn't strike me that stillness, or if things are being thrown at you and you just are just standing, that okay, if you want to throw. That too has a lot of strength. That too is a response. Not saying just let people throw things at you, but just, I hope you can understand what I'm saying. That just because I'm being accused, if I'm being, I don't think that trying to move me, say, like Sadhji was saying, I'm sitting in meditation and this thought comes that, "Arey, where did the milk guy come?" I can just smile and just push it, right? I don't have to then say, "Arey, suno, aaya hai kya?" So just that kind of thing, that not everything should be allowed to move me, because there's a lot of movements that happen in my being.
I loved how you differentiated because sometimes it could be mistaken that, okay, what is this stillness? Is it inertia, just sitting there passively and not doing things, and perhaps expecting that, okay, if I'm just still, everything will fall into place. Not exactly that, but what you mentioned about how to take that pause, like you talked about Ram, and it's not that he was being weak or passive. It's just like, okay, let this whole drama settle down and I'll do my bit when I have to. So I think I love the way how you tied that. First, you differentiated that there's the two types of stillness, which could be one of inertia and one of action without actually physically doing it. And then how you mentioned about that you can take that silence and do something with it. And sometimes silence is actually very powerful. And also to stop this one-upping, you get into this kind of a contest, like, okay, I'm going to have the last word. Okay, you say one thing to me, I'll say two things to you, and it doesn't go anywhere. So I just loved how you tied up everything, and that's really brings a lot of clarity.
Thank you, Rachel.
On that note, there was very interesting thing that I read that Shubindu has written about divine inertia. And it was really interesting because, and recently I also came across, I can even share later on, Alok Das, very small talk on divine inertia, and where they talk about that how the world and the universe is actually have come out from the divine inertia. So divine is still the divine consciousness. I think even in Gita as well, in chapter 9, the other day we were reading, and Krishna says that I am an entity which is which is I don't know how to say it in English. He says pragyastit. I'm stated in pragya, and I'm not affected by anything of the world. So that was very interesting, and it made me go back to what Shrimita says about divine inertia. And he was saying that Shiva is actually amongst the three Godhead, Vishnu, Mahesh, and Shiva. Shiva is actually, the inertia, and from where then, Brahma begins the creation. So it was really beautiful. And in the talk, Alugda was saying that how, even when you were talking about that, how sometimes if we are stated, if we are very deeply seated in that stillness, into that state of divine inertia, if we can use that word that Sri Aurobindo says, then the truth reveals itself. And he gave the example of Meera, like, for example, even I've, all, in my all my life, I have always thought myself as a feminist, and those values, and the Jhansi Ki Rani, and very much resonated with what you said. And Alugda said that when you actually realize that divine inertia within yourself, just like, for example, Buddha's silence or even a sentence can bring the change which the 1,000 words, or fighting with 100 arrows will not bring. And he gave the example of Meera, and he said that Meera, when she was going around, she came to know about a saint who was there in the city. She wanted to go meet him, because he was, of course, doing Krishna Katha. So when she went, the people who were outside wouldn't let her in. They said that women are not allowed inside. And Meera just laughed. Usually how we were talking about, we will, start accusing, or how my rights, how I would think that I as a feminist would react. But she just smiled. And after some time, the answer that came from the divine inertia was so beautiful, and it moved all the people around. And she said, but I thought, but isn't only one man in the world. There's only one man in the world, and rest of us are just women. And they couldn't say anything from that. So, like what you were saying, the potentiality, this shows the potentiality of that space when response becomes more of the reaction, response, that response from that space of stillness or divine inertia. They can actually become the harbinger of transformation, and not just a chain of reaction, which the world is, that we solve one problem and 10 other problems come out, because we are just not really, it's not coming from that space that that Meera replied, and the people couldn't really say anything. They just said go, because they realized exactly, we all are women, and there is only one man who is Krishna. So yeah, so on that note, I thought that it's such a beautiful place to be if we can realize it, even for a second. Like, even with myself, I've seen that if I really react from a silent space of my mind or from my heart, the result is just miraculous. It just completely changes the situation, whether it's my professional life, whether it's my personal life, although happens very rarely, because you're caught up so much in your thought processes. But whenever it happens, whenever I'm able to do it, um, it's actually really, really amazing.
Thank you, Nandini. Nandini, I think you had also unmuted. Uh,
That was thank you for sharing that, the other Nandini. That was very, very well said. And as you were talking, right, I think like, especially with my kids and stuff, the same tantrum they throw, depending on how much like of that connection you have to that space, I notice my response, right, can be very different. And then their response to how I respond, right, can be either that chain reaction of like, or more something that's more more beautiful, right, or something that's more connective, more peaceful. So that was a very good example. Thank you for sharing. So I am curious, how we spoke about stillness, we spoke about the space, right? What are some ways that people are kind of cultivating this ability to stay in this space when you go about your living in the world? So obviously meditation is a big one for me personally, right? So I meditate quite a bit. There's a lot of things like being in nature, just slowing down the pace of whatever you're doing, right? So whether it's washing vessels, cooking, anything that you're doing, just slowing it down to 1/10 of the pace of what you would do, right? But I'm curious what other practices of cultivating that stillness that we could explore.
Yeah, I think Nandini, that's what we're just trying to do, because there's something in me which regards action higher than peace, right? Higher than silence. So today, while we are exploring, we are reflecting the strength in silence. Then mentally we'll get aligned that too is my possibility. And that too will bring in will make another new path on which we can walk. And see these practices, again, how much will you sit for meditations? Meditation is not just an hour or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It is a way of life, right? Mindfulness is a way of life. So till these practices are momentary, and which is great if we are not doing anything, but if we are doing these, however much we can, that really helps. But the aim is to become stillness, right? And not just practice stillness here. But that's how we start. But I think again, this pause, which we call, the harmony circle, where this sharing space right now, or other reflections such as this, or when we reflect with ourselves. Because right now, if I am not convinced that without actions, mountains can be moved, I will not stop. I will keep moving, like, in that thing that we read that about how just moving the water in a cup. I falsely keep believing that I am moving, I'm moving, things are happening, not realizing that, hey, what am I doing? But yes, I would open up, of course, if somebody wants to answer what all we can do. We'll, of course, take it up more, but not today. I think today we are almost at the end, but we'll be taking that up more. Okay, so
On the question you asked, I think two things that personally helped me was one is, of course, nature. Indeed, it really helps. But to hug a tree, it was actually suggested to me by a friend of mine. And she just told me that how hugging a tree, genuinely actually really going and hugging it, and asking the tree to teach you how to be still, because the stillness the tree has is kind of an embodiment of the stillness we need. Um, everything in nature is, but tree, for example, how still yet so dynamic the tree is in terms of the process that's happening. So I actually thought it's really crazy to do it, but then she said just do it, and do it, make tree a friend, give it a name. So I have a friend in a park called Gratitude. Every day I go meet him, greet him like I meet a friend, and I just hug him for a minute, 2 minute, 3 minute. And it's so beautiful. I mean, it helps me so much, especially with my grieving process. I remember I was really overtaken by grief when I lost my mother recently. And I remember every day I used to go and hug the tree, and I used to say, Gratitude, can you please help me? Because nobody else is helping me, nothing else. And I could feel that the tree is, sucking that grief from me, I could actually feel it. So something that I've personally personally felt, that tree can teach you stillness. So, you know, we in your house, in your park, anywhere, or and the better thing is, the older the tree is, you know, the wiser the tree is, the older the tree is, the better. But you know, that's one thing that I think really helped me, and I usually do it when I need that kind of stillness and mind is really going haywire and nothing is helping. And the other thing I think that really helps me is music too. Music really helps. Start playing a musical instrument, and any instrument at any age. If we can just take up and decide we want to learn, either it's a piano or anything, guitar or anything, I think that also stills the mind a lot. Because I think music is the only thing that I've seen that you cannot play and think at the same time. Everything else, either it's driving, either it's meditation, either it's cooking, anything else that you do, you can still think. But when you're playing an instrument, somehow it happens that your mind will not, you cannot think, because I don't know how is it. That's why it is, mother has said that, you know, it is very strong, it has a very strong potential to unite with the divine. And that's why in ashram, school, music instrument, you know, children are very much encouraged to be trained in the music. So these two things I think are really practical steps that I feel has helped me calming my mind down. And as Taru said, meditation is something, a way of life. The other thing also, Thich Nhat Hanh and Plum Village Foundation, there is an app. If I have it in my this thing, very amazing app, because first of all, it has a mindfulness bell that you can put in, and you know, in every hour, if you want, in every 20 minutes, the bell starts ringing. So it's a reminder of coming back to yourself, because we keep forgetting. So you know, every time the bell, like for example, for me, it's in every hour it rings, and I just take 3 deep breaths and I remember to calm my mind. So it's like a conscious practice throughout the day. Also, they have little gathas, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're, you know, cooking, for everything. Thai Thich Nhat Hanh has actually developed gathas that you can develop, or a bhajan if you personally like, because our mind, no matter how much you try, you know, it has a tendency, as I think Sham was saying, it's a conditioning from so many years and maybe lifetimes that won't go away. But if we consciously, even if we are cooking, if we cannot concentrate the cooking, but at least try to, you know, keep the thoughts in a productive manner. So you start singing, you know, like singing in the sense you start saying bhajan, or the like for example, I've memorized some of the Plum Village, those those so small poems while brushing my teeth. I will, you know, say that 4 lines, keep saying. So I will see mind is not going anywhere, but usually doing that and brushing. So it's a way of mindfulness techniques, as like there's no technique, but you know, these small ways. So wonderful app if you would like to go ahead. So that's from my experience.
Yeah, thank you, Nandini, for the question, and thank you, Nandini, for sharing what you did. Now, while you were sharing, one thing that struck me was that I have so much confidence in what I believe, that it is right, and I have to prove right, and everybody should know I am right. And that is the reason why I'm not able to be still. So I think somewhere, once I look back and I see so many times that I have been wrong about how I have chosen right over, say, choosing love. I've chosen right over than being kind. And that hurts. So I think if I reflect back on on my life, on my past, and if when I see others, how we are living, it's easy to see it in others, not in a judgment way, I'm saying, but just to understand or learn. I think for the stillness to dawn, or for the mind to quieten up a little bit, I'll have to stop believing in my stories and wherever they take me. Because I know I know I have a story. I know everybody has a story about what happened, what is right, what is wrong, but they are all just relative. Rumi has this beautiful quote that out beyond the ideas of right doings and wrongdoing, there's a field, and I'll meet you there. Right? Our whole lives are stuck in rights and wrongs and goods and bads, that we don't know where life is going. What is my aim? Where am I going? What is stillness? I'm so busy proving to myself and the world that no, I move, I multitask, I am doing this, I'm doing that. That life is passing me by and I'm not changing my ways. Again, in the Vedantic terms, there's this word called udasinta. In Hindi, we take udasinta to be sad or depressed. But ud asin, the origin of the word is seated higher. Asin is seat, ud is upar. So out beyond the ideas of right doings and wrong doing, there's a field, I'll meet you there, which is not about right and wrongs. It's beyond right and wrong. So I think just this realization or this acknowledgement or knowing that I don't know, my perception is limited, my thoughts are limited, my understanding is limited. And we all think we are right. If there are 10 people having an argument and you go and individually talk to all 10 of them, they will be right. They will very strongly believe they are right. And while you're talking to one and you'll listen to their story, you too will say, yes, you are right. Then you'll go to the other one. So just making more room for that, I think, also helps. So there was a short, I think 3-4 minute kind of a meditation by Thich Nhat Hanh that I had liked. I had pulled it up. So if there is any last comments from anybody, I will take that. And then I play the video, 3 minutes, I think, and then we'll end today. So if there's anything before I play, please do share. Okay, we are very quiet today. That's good.
I think a lot of reflection is going on, Taruna.
Yeah.
You spoke about the silence and the stillness. I think
Yeah.
at least
see,
I'm trying
that's-
to practice that.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. So all credit to me. So I
Yeah,
will this. Yes, Jagat.
I really liked the example that Nandini was sharing about hugging the tree, and um, for me, it was looking at the ocean. You know, that would take away everything out of my mind and have a clear thought. And I still remember, on my motorcycle, I was riding to the ocean, thinking that, you know, if I go there, I know I'm going to get rid of my depression, but what if I need the depression? What if I want, because if I'm not depressed, or if I'm not in love with someone, then how can I be there? If I'm clear, my mind gets cleared, then maybe I'll not love them anymore. So I was missing that too, and I would then just go there and walk. I don't know for how many hours I would walk by the ocean and by the sea and the beach, and it would really help me out. And also another thing that Nandini shared is that music, uh, driving and singing a song, and just being in that moment always helped me. And I don't know, at that time I sound better than I normally sound. So I have always enjoyed that, so I could relate to what she was sharing. So yeah, thank you for that.
Also, because again, I also underwent really bad depression. So I think, people who are in that this they can resonate. So, especially when you're not in a good frame of mind. So I think the resonance comes from the commonality of experience.
Yes, thank you. Jagan, when you spoke about the ocean, when we go to the hills, when we look at mountains, when we look at a huge lake, when we look at a desert or an ocean or a river, there's an immediate stillness that we feel in our being, right? It's as if, I don't know, just talking about myself, it feels that suddenly it seems that there are things so much bigger than you, that suddenly something in you stops talking, right? Like it feels petty, and it doesn't maybe just happen so formally how I'm saying, but suddenly there's a quietness that, and there's a dawning that, things are okay. Everything is okay. Things are huge. They are big. I am being taken care of. So very naturally, when we go to the hills or when we go to anything big, huge, it kind of shows us our place in the world. And it's really beautiful to experience that. And yet we don't have to always stand in front of the ocean to feel that, right? The ocean is in me. Anytime I want, I can just feel the ocean and feel the vastness and feel I'm part of it. Yes, Jagan, please.
No, it was very beautiful what you said. And I think that is the reason why I felt good to just stand there and look at the broad ocean. And my eyes can see where it ends. And that's where I maybe, subtly I realize that, oh, I'm nothing. I'm nothing. My problems are nothing. My my simple egos, my petty feelings, these are nothing. There's a lot more, and maybe that is the reason why it helped me. Yeah.
Okay. So I will say that now. If you can't hear it, please let me know. So if we can just be a little bit relaxed, if you want to close our eyes, it's just 3 minutes in the voice of Thai Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk.
Let us visualize a lake in the highland among mountains. The water is so still that it reflects truly the blue sky and the mountains. And if you look into the water, you see your face not distorted at all, because the water is calm, is still. If you take a picture of the lake, where you see that the mountain and the sky reflected in it are just the mountain and the sky above. So when you practice breathing in, you say, breathing in, I see myself as still waters. Means you calm yourself by the breathing. Your breathing can become a wonderful instrument in order to calm yourself. And when you breathe out, you see that in that state of calm and stillness, you reflect things as they are. You do not distort things anymore. When we are not calm, we distort things. We cannot receive the message of other people. You cannot receive the truth from other beings. Suppose the moon, the beautiful moon in the sky, wants to reflect herself in the water of your pond, but the water of your pond is not calm. How can the full moon reflect herself in you? And therefore, it's not the fault of the moon, it's the fault of the water. If the pond of the mind of living beings is stilled, the beautiful moon will reflect itself in it. That is an old poem that I read when I was young. If you are still, then your perceptions will be correct. And we will understand what people are trying to tell us. The moon, the mountain, the rivers, the trees, everything is trying to tell us the truth. But because the water of our mind is not still, that is why we are not able to receive the truth from the cosmos. And therefore, we should practice breathing in and out and calm ourselves for true understanding to be possible. Sitting quietly and breathing in and out is a wonderful way to calm yourself and to be still waters.
So we will again, I think, start next week's session. We'll take up the same topic. We'll start with this 3 minutes meditation or reflection or thoughts, and we will reflect on these because a lot was said. But because I'm not still, I don't perceive things as they really are. My perceptions are corrupted by the movements in my being. And if I actually want simplicity, if I actually want to know how things truly are, there is no other option. I will have to still to listen. And we know that there's nothing new, and yet maybe it's time that we make it an everyday part of our lives, give it importance, give it priority, inculcate it, so that more stillness, so that we can invite stillness in our being. So thank you so much for joining in. I don't know if there were any comments, we can take them, and otherwise from my side we'll end today. So just thanking Grace for the opportunity for such a session, for the company that we can reflect together with an aspiration for expansion and growth and peace. And praying that may all beings be well and happy and experience the expansion that is possible in the world. And that's from me. But if there's anything anybody would want to add, please do before we end. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It was beautiful.
Thank you, Taru. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Have a great day.
Thank you.